She had barely started school, late summer, early frost on the big playground reserved for the upper grades. At recess, she fell, off the slanting bridge, two squared-off 2x4s glued together, two chains wrapped in thick plastic for handrails. The whole thing, in retrospect, an accident waiting to happen. And it did. She slipped and fell onto the bridge, stomach pressed into the cold wood, staring at the gravel below. If I don't move, I'll be fine, she thought. And she didn't move until she did, thanks to gravity, and hit the earth shoulder-neck first. She doesn't remember making contact or even the pain that happened after. Someone came to help, she doesn't remember who. Then she was in Mr. Carrot's office, sitting on a hard wooden chair like they have in schools from the past, both arms straight at her sides, locked at the elbow, holding the bottom of the chair, the only way to pause the pain. Mr. Carrot's name wasn't Carrot, it was Carrick, but with a name like that, you were asking to be called Mr. Carrot, and some kids couldn't pronounce names right anyway. She sat immobile and straight-armed until her mom came. She doesn't remember that part either. It could have been her dad. She doesn't remember the drive to the hospital. Maybe it hurt too much. She does remember her father helping her dress in the mornings. The button-up shirts, each arm slowly guided through the sleeves, and then in reverse at bedtime. The stiff, lying back in bed. I asked, but no, nobody. Nobody else was here, says a voice near her feet. Ponytail. She jerks and doesn't get anywhere. Everything's strapped. She shrieks as a knife blade of pain rips through her shoulder. Careful! Mustache lays an arm across her torso, pressing her back into the stretcher. You were alone, sweetheart. The person who called us, she says you were alone. Part 1. Chapter 1. They met in February, one day mid-month, after daffodils had already appeared on lawns. It grew cold. Colder than it had been in many winters. It rarely snowed in this temperate and coastal British Columbian city. People stayed home, scared of the ice and the wet snow that locked itself around car tires, weighed down power lines. One Tuesday night, the transformer at the corner of Tia's block blew. The light disappeared all at once and the power shut off with a soft pop. Surrounded by the sudden silence that comes with an outage, Tia chose not to dig out candles and instead ventured out into the hushed, frozen night. Her neighbors scurried about in their living rooms, huge shadow puppets huddled around kitchen tables set with small flames. She could barely make out the prints her shoes made in the snow, couldn't discern where sidewalk became boulevard, where boulevard became street. She looked for the moon. A sense of it blurred behind the tall maples that lined the road. It glowed small, a tiny crescent, obscured by heavy clouds. Nothing to light the path ahead of her, save for memory, and, eventually, the rods in her eyes working overtime in the darkness. She didn't know where she was going. She was supposed to stay in, study massage therapy texts, memorize names, scalene, trapezoid, pectoralis minor. A body of fibers, sinew, and bone taking shape and making sense under her hands. She knew she wasn't dressed right, curled her toes in her sneakers against the numbness seeping in despite wool socks. She was headed toward the ocean. In this part of Victoria, the sea encroached on 3 sides. She thought frozen, even though the better part of her brain knew the harbor wouldn't flatten into a skating rink at a few degrees below zero. Power returned sporadically after a few blocks. Street lights cast a hesitant glow that did not reach the sidewalk, each one ringed by a halo of frozen air, a row of moon dogs parading down the street. The businesses below remained dark. Some restaurants were serving by candlelight. The few people exploring the streets were indiscernible. Tia looked for someone familiar, waiting for a smile she could return. Each face lay in shadow. She looked away and watched her step, shivered. She arrived at Bastion Square around 8. The square slanted on its journey towards Wharf Street, and the stones were slick. She slowed as she approached the stairs in the plaza below, where, in the summer,